Cane, cane, cane. Oh. Hi, everyone. Yes, it's all about canes today. Today we're making polymer clay canes, and I'm just conditioning some polymer. Now, if you're new to Fire Mountain Gems or new to our Fire Mountain Live, be aware that we have a ton of video tutorials at firemountaingems.com, including the best way to condition polymer clay. Of course, the best thing is to have a pasta machine. They even make motors for these if you're interested. If you don't want to strengthen up that right arm there. So I've been conditioning this one for quite a while because it is made out of Kato clay. We have several different brands for sale at Fire Mountain Gems. I love Kato clay, especially for making canes because it's a little stiffer than the others. But because it's that way, it also makes it a little challenging to condition. So be aware there's two handy-dandy tricks for conditioning Kato clay. In fact, this white clay right here that I'm conditioning right now, this actually came through as crumbles. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just going to take a little work. And the work I did to this was I added a little bit of liquid polymer to it while I was conditioning. And it did take quite a while, but I was raised by my mom and I don't waste anything. So I put in the work and I actually got that conditioned up so it's a usable piece of clay now. But another nifty trick to condition your clay, and this works for all of them, but Kato clay in particular, but keep it in a warm place, not a hot place, because a hot place will condition it, will cure it, and it will be hard plastic and you can't do anything with it. But a nice warm place that's not really too warm, like I have the best place, and it's right here. This is the best place to keep your clay and keep it warm. I would have used a pocket, but most designers don't put pockets in women's clothes. So this clay is warm and beautiful and ready to be conditioned. So we have a whole video on how to condition, and I don't think you want to watch me just crank clay all day. Oh, and speaking of being warm, I'm a little warm. I'm taking off this hat, excuse me. All right, time to get to work about caning. This is Fire Mountain Live. I'm really live talking to you on your phone or your computer right now. So if you have any comments you'd like to share with me, comments or questions or any of that stuff, go ahead and write it down. And I'll hopefully get that message and I'll try and answer your questions or just say hi. I love to hear from you from all over. We're going to make this patriotic, U.S. patriotic. I should be specific because we have people from all over the world who tune into Fire Mountain Live. So this is patriotic for the USA, but it's a great technique I'm going to teach you that will be perfect for any country or anything you love, whether it's teddy bears or kitty cats or maple leaves. They're all going to be great for this technique. All right, so it all starts with what we call a plug of white clay. Don't forget to give me your questions and all that stuff. Oh, hi, Becky. You're here every week, aren't you? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I also want to tell you a few other things. If you're interested in the tools and the materials I'm using on today's project, if you comment hashtag ND45, that's Nancy Dog 45, we'll get you a list of the ingredients after the video is over. And this one's kind of complicated, so this could be a little bit longer than usual, so don't worry if you don't have time to watch it all today. We record this and then we put it back on again, so even if you're not watching it live, you can still watch it and not miss out on any of the goodies. In fact, man, if you're watching this all the way through live, I suggest you take notes because there is a lot of steps to this. And it starts with this plug. I think that's a little small. I'm going to add a little bit more clay. Let me add a little bit more clay. This is my clay blade. It is sharp on one side, dull on the other side. Be careful. Just saying, because I'm a grandma. Well, I'm not a grandma. I'm a great-grandaunt. Okay, so I'm going to fashion this into a plug. I want a plug that is about 1 inch diameter and 1 to 2 inches long, not too long. And it's very, very important that you take your time to squish this basically from the middle out so that you force any air that might be in this out the ends, because air is your enemy in polymer clay. So you want to avoid getting any bubbles, anything like that in there. And you probably are already tired of watching me crush this piece of white clay. So I'll show you one I already finished. There we go. Looks like a long white marshmallow. Oh, we got more people who are saying hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jacelyn, Jacqueline. One of those interesting spellings. And Patty Jo from Ottawa, Canada. See, I told you about the maple leaf. You could make a maple leaf flag using this technique I'm telling you about right now. And Annette and Kelly in San Francisco. And Linda, my sister's watching. Hi, Linda. She never watches my videos. That's because she saw my hat this morning and knew that was going to be fun. All right. All right, so there we go. So there's my little plug about the size I want. We'll set that aside. Boop. Now we're going to start getting into the fun stuff. I did precondition all my clay because I didn't think you wanted to watch me cranking things. All right. Oh, I forgot. I'll talk about it later. Okay, so here's a piece of white clay. I worked it through at the thickest setting and just made a square. You don't have to make a perfect square. I made it like that so it'd look pretty. Don't worry about it. I'm going to cut this in half. Don't worry about that either. And I'm going to double up the thickness here. So now I have 2 thicknesses of this clay. And I'm going to grab this little tiny cutter. It's a little star cutter. It's put out by Kemper, and it is available at firemountaingems.com. And I'm going to cut 3 stars. Push down all the way through to the bottom. Pop it out, and it's neat. It's got this little plunger thing, so I can pop my stars out. I'm going to cut 3 of these. And if you have questions, too, about this polymer clay, please feel free to pop them in anytime. 3 stars, or anything about jewelry making. Actually, I've been here at Fire Mountain Gems for 19 years. So I've learned a thing or two about jewels and jewelry and the products that we sell. There we go. So I've got 3 of those little stars. Actually, I would end up cutting out 12 of these stars. But again, you don't want to watch me cut out all those darn stars. So I'm going to set that aside. Take the 3 stars. Oh, I'm going to put on my glasses for this. Glasses. Don't need the super magnification, though. Put on my glasses, and I'm going to stack these up ever so perfectly so that all the points line up. So I'm already starting a cane. This is a little short cane that is just a stack of stars. So that's technically a cane. Now, making canes, a lot of people are kind of scared of them because they're a little futzy. They're a little bit futzy, but it is just a technique. Doesn't even require any artistic talent. But I want to tell you about canes. You spend a little time, but look at what you can make. So these are some old canes that I made a long time ago. And you can do so many different things. I think this is probably my favorite, this butterfly cane. I made this cane 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And it is still pliable. It is still entirely sliceable and bakeable because the polymer clay doesn't dry out. It stays clay until you bake it in the oven or accidentally leave it in your hot car. It will stay just like this. It doesn't dry out. So even though this is 6 years old, this is still a beautiful butterfly wing that I can continue to use. And then, I made this menorah. That was a challenge. All those little bits and the flames on top of the candles. Another nice thing about canes is you can shrink them. So I made it, I think it was even bigger than this when I made it, and I reduced it and reduced it and reduced it, and I can make it as small as I want. And yet it retains all those little intricate bits inside of there. Kaleidoscope canes are one of my favorite things. This is a little dark, but you can see I've made sort of a mishmash, and then I cut it and re-put it together and cut it and re-put it together to make a kaleidoscope cane. Zipper canes. This is one, I've actually made a video on this. If you look at firemountaingems.com and look up zipper cane, you'll find this one with me making it. Rainbows, beautiful. Bullseye, simple bullseye. Leaves are so popular. Leaf canes. And this one I used to, it was a Thanksgiving turkey I made with these feathers, these big feathers. And so the nice thing is you can take those canes and make them into something. So here's my little skull cane. Isn't it funny? I thought it was cute. And looky, I made earrings out of them. And since I have this whole cane, I can shrink it, I can make it bigger, I can slice it up and make more jewelry out of this same cane. So it feels like a lot of work, but really, you've made a big old cane and you've got that cane to use whenever you want to use it. So I've got a collection of canes now. And in fact, this patriotic cane. So I've got my stack of white stars. That's the beginning of a cane. Now I'm going to take some blue. There we go. Blue. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut this in half to make it twice as thick. And I'm going to cut some squares. And this is a cutter we have available at Fire Mountain Gems. Imagine that. Cut some squares. I don't have a nifty little plunger on this one. I have to use my fingers. And again, I would actually, in reality, do 12 of these because we need quite a few of these. But you don't want to watch all that. So, oh, looky. I did do 12 of them. Ha ha. Oh, come back. There we go. Set that aside. Now, out of these, I need to cut a star out of them. And I'm being very careful with cutting my stars. Oh, we got more questions than people. Yes. I'm going to be very careful with this, with making sure that one point is up and two legs are down, so that I can get these the same orientation in each one of these squares, because I have to stack them up. So I'm looking very closely down over the top, making sure I'm not too close to the edge so it doesn't cut through the edge, and cut up my stars. Oh, see, I did split the edge just a little bit. It'll be okay. I'll make it work. And pop that star out. Now you can just refold that in with the other leftover blue, or use it for something else. You've got lots of blue stars now. Okay, I want two legs down, one pointy star up at the top, not too close to the edge. There we go. Oh, I conditioned this clay yesterday and I can see it's already stiffened up a little bit. That's okay. It'll all work. One of the nice things about polymer clay is you can't do anything wrong. If it didn't turn out the way you wanted, you can still make it into something really cool. In fact, Lisa, who is a really good polymer clay artist, Lisa Pavelka, she always says, there are no mistakes. They're just opportunities for embellishment. And she does. She's awesome. She had a bubble. Okay, we'll put a leaf over it. It'll be all fine. Okay, so here's my 4 squares with stars cut out of the middle. So I want to stack these up just perfectly, as perfectly as I can. And the important thing is that the stars line up. Not so much that the squares line up, but the stars. So line up those stars. And I want to say hi to Teresa in Tampa, and Roxy in Wisconsin, and Evie in Dallas. Thank you all for being here. Okay, so I've got these lined up nicely. Now, how do I get this white star into the blue star? It's like a magic trick, right? Because this stuff is not slippery. It doesn't just slide in there. So here's the trick. And this is where it works with gingerbread boys or hearts or maple leaves. Whatever you want to use, this will work. So I'm going to cut through the middle of my star in the square. I'm cutting through the tip of the star and down through those 2 bottom legs. So I got that halfway, really halfway down. And then I take this and I just sort of flex it open a little bit and stick my star in there. Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. And then I take the other half and I sort of flex it open and tuck my star right in there. Isn't that cool? What a great technique. Oh, we have another question. Becky wants to know, do you have to smooth the clay to straighten if cutter overlaps? We're going to be doing that because pretty much any time you're working with canes, you're going to be reducing. And so that's what I'm going to do now. Now I've got this little star, this little square star thingy, and I'm going to reduce. So to reduce, I will use the heat of my hands and a little bit of pressure, and I'll start squeezing that all together. So that's where the edges will get smooth. And in fact, we're going to reduce and reduce and reduce. We're going to keep on reducing that. And I always try to sort of squeeze from the middle to the outside so that the air bubbles have a chance to escape, because we didn't get that perfectly air-free, you know that. And I'm going to do, of course, more squishing on the sides than on the end because I want to reduce this. I want to make this into a long, narrow cane. And this is just one cane, and then you can do whatever you want with the cane. But I will finish the Patriotic bunting. This is one of the things I like to do, is use my tile here, and I will just start reducing. And while I'm reducing, let's see if we got more people who want to say hi. Oh, no, we're not using the really good eraser, so we haven't got more people yet. And also your questions. Love to hear your questions. So you can see, Becky, that we are getting, those lines are disappearing. So I'm reducing, and I'm going to be reducing this for a long time. So this is a patience game on this, is you want to keep rotating it and squishing it from the middle to the out, from the middle to the out. And the slower you do it, the better your stars are going to look. If you try and do it too quickly, you can distort your stars. So you work at this slowly, and because I am so terribly organized, and I don't think you want to watch me reduce this whole thing, I'll show you what happens. Ta-da! You end up with a piece that small from this, and you just keep reducing. I had a question the other day about why are my two shades of blue a little bit different. I made this one like a month ago, and I either had a different dye lot or I mixed it with a little bit of different color blue or something. That's the only reason why, because I made that previously. So we keep reducing that, and we end up with this. Now you'll see on the end, it's become very distorted. You can't even tell there's a star in there. It's just kind of a mishmash mess. Ugh. But the magic is when you cut it, because here's what the middle of that looks like. Check out that star. Isn't that cool? You think it would be so messed up because we've been squishing and squeezing and patting and probing and stretching and doing all that stuff. It's like, and that came out, that crisp, clear star. And that's really the magic of Kato clay. A lot of the other brands can do it, but they're just not quite as good at this as Kato clay. Now, when I want a sculpting, I want Sculpey or Fimo. But for caning, I want Kato. Okay, so I've got this long, long cane. And now we grab that plug we made, and we need to make a circle of these stars around this plug. And that also takes a while, so we have to make sure that you get lots of these little star canes. So, because I'm so very efficient, I've done some in advance. Ta-da! So here we show that I've got, and in fact, there's some of my old cane and there's some of my new cane. But you know, in the grand scheme of things, those two shades of blue aren't going to make any difference at all. So I've got that plug almost completely surrounded. Let's get a couple more here. I just want them the same length as my plug. Oh, I got to put on my good glasses. Good glasses, or I'll never be able to tell the sharp side from the dull side. Put that in there. Cut it off again. Put all these stars. Can I get in one or two more in there? I think we'll do just one. Sharp end down. Thank you very much. There we go. Oh, and we want to say hi to Barbara. Hi, Barbara in Milford, Pennsylvania. It's nice to hear from people all over the world. I know we have people who watch us from Australia and New Zealand and Ireland and lots of places. Love to hear from you again. Love to hear from you every single one of these. By the way, in 2 weeks' time, Patty will be back, and she's going to teach you how to be a bazaar ninja, how to get ready for all those holiday bazaars and all those things that are coming up. Okay, so I give this a squeeze. I'm kind of doing a little reduction here too, using the heat of my hands and pressure. I'm not going to do much of this rolling type of business because that will make your cane get a twist to it. So that's not a good thing. So I'm just going to compress that a little bit. And as you can see from the beads we made, next thing we need is another row of white. So I'm going to grab that white clay I had earlier, crank that around. I need a piece that's long enough to go all the way around my cane. Ta-da. Probably have way too much here. And I could cut off these edges and make them nice and neat, but sure. Oh, sure, let's cut those off and make them nice. There we go. Make them neat and tidy. And on this end, I want to cut a bevel in this because that'll make it all come together a little better. So you see my blade here. I want to set my blade at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to cut a bevel. Is that the right term? Bevel or bezel? Bevel. A bevel here on the end by making a 45-degree cut. Okay, now I'm going to start rolling this around my cane. Rolling it up, and as I come up here where it's almost completed, I'm just going to touch down there, and it's made a little line you can barely see. I can see it, but I'm sure you can barely see it. And I need to make another bevel there. Same direction, 45-degree angle. There we go. And as I roll that up, we should come together just right there. And then we squish and squeeze. Do a lot of squishing and squeezing in this thing. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and share them. And if you're enjoying the video, share it too. Share it with your other, maybe even people who have never done polymer clay before. You'll realize that this is really about technique and not so much about how amazingly talented you are, even though I know you are. It's not what it's about. It's about following the techniques. Now, I don't think that layer of white is quite thick enough, so I would add a second layer of white just to make it a little bit thicker, a thicker row. And then I'll do the same thing with the red. Same exact process. I'll put on 2 layers of red. And we end up with that. So I've got 2 layers of red, 2 layers of white, my blue stars, aren't they pretty? And then my core of white. And this has already been reduced and smooshed and squished. And this is a raw cane that I actually made about a month ago. And this is still a perfectly usable cane. And you can see how little distortion we had. And you can also make it smaller if you like, or bigger. There's a smaller version of the same cane. I can make that really teeny, teeny, tiny. Or I could even compress it and make it bigger if I wanted it bigger. So canes are so multi-purpose. You can do so much with them. I could cut them apart into pie wedges, reorganize them, and make it into a Patriotic kaleidoscope. Whatever you need. So canes, I want to express how much fun they are and how useful they are. Make lots of them. All right, so now I've got this beautiful cane with my rows of white and red and blue stars and all that good stuff. So now I want to make it into a bead. Easy breezy. I just cut off a slice. I'm going to cut this about 1/4 inch, I think. I want it a little bit major. There we go. And also, every time I'd slice that, I'd rotate it a 1/4 turn and rotate it a 1/4 turn. Make sure it doesn't get smooshed. Now, this has been around for a while, so it's already been rested, which makes it a little stiff again, like it hasn't been conditioned yet. The one I just was working on, that one's still really soft, so be aware of that. I'm going to put these aside here. So for each one of these little discs, I can make 2 beads. So I'll cut it in half. Still not quite done. I'm going to grab my little circle cutter. This one happens to come from a leather cutting set. We don't sell this, I'm sorry, at Fire Mountain. But there's lots of other things you could use. You could use a straw. You could use a ballpoint pen you took apart and use the barrel, whatever, to cut the center out of this white plug in the middle. And I happen to have a handy skewer to get that little piece of white out of there. And another one over here on this side. Cut that center out. Okay, we're almost there. Next, I'm going to use a bead baking rack. And they come with these little pins, and these are what's going to make the hole. Here's my bead baking rack. We don't sell this exact model anymore, but we do have a bead baking rack available at Fire Mountain Gems. And they all work great, so no worries there. So very, very, very gently, I'm going to take the pokey end. I'm going to poke it where I want my hole to be. And this is the challenge. I want to look down right at the top, make sure I'm going straight. I want to look at the side occasionally, make sure I'm going straight. And sometimes it helps to twist the pin a little bit. And I want to see where it comes out in the middle. There it's coming out in the middle. And at this time, I want to go ahead and put my coral bead in. So, put the good glasses on. Here we go. And this is still really flexy. So I can push it around a little bit. I can push my little coral in there. I can stretch the side of my bunting a little bit and keep pushing all the way through. Make sure you're still going straight. I came out a little bit at the top. I want to go down a little bit. There we go. Just go down. There we go. And there we have a bead pin through, making my center bead. I'll put that in my bead baking rack. If you don't have a bead baking rack, that's okay. You can poke your hole through and you can just lay it on a surface like that. It might get a little shiny on one side of your surface. So a baking rack is nice, but not essential. I'm going to bake that in the oven according to the manufacturer's directions, which is 300 degrees for 15 minutes for Kato clay. Each clay is different, so you decide. Sorry, it's warm in here. So I'm going to bake that along with 4 more beads, and I end up with all my lovely beads already baked. Ta-da! And they're hard. So that soft, malleable clay has turned into something as hard as that. Very nice little gizmo. And I just use a pair of pliers and pull that pin out. Ta-da! And we can take this. Actually, I'm going to take this one. And we can start building our patriotic necklace. So you can see how this technique would work even if you're using a maple leaf, if you're using a heart, if you're using any shape, a gingerbread boy, whatever you need. So just use that same technique. I think all my viewers like and know how to string beads already. So here I have one that's almost all done. Let's just finish it up so I can show you the finished product. So I've already done blue agate, bead caps, and my polymer clay beads. Put on another polymer clay bead. Another bead cap. Oh, I got 2 there. Another blue bead. I had 3 there. Blue bead. I don't know why I can't see the holes on these. There we go. Another bead cap. And do y'all know the proper way to finish these things with the crimp beads and everything? On this end, I've made very careful care to get the excess wire back into my bead, and I'm going to do that here too. I put on a crimp bead. I like to use a crimp cover. This is protection from abrasion. This is the little horseshoe little gizmochi. And again, these techniques I'm showing you right now, you can find these at firemountaingems.com. We've got great video tutorials on how to finish using AccuGuards, crimp beads. There's a lot of great content there. Some of them by me, some of them by other people. Lots of fun stuff. You don't know how to do something, check there first. Then I'm going to take that excess tail, because this tail, if you left it out there hanging, man, it pokes you in the neck and it makes your neck itch and it drives you crazy. So I like to poke that bead, that tail down through a bead or 2. Well, I'm only going to do 1 because I don't want to get to that polymer clay bead. We'll go through that bead and this bead cap. I'm going to pull all of these things tight. but not too tight. You got to have a little bit of flexing room or it doesn't hang right. So don't make it too tight. And I'll use my crimping pliers to squish this little crimp one way. Then I turn it sideways and I crimp it the other way to make it super secure. And now I can trim off that little tail so it does not scratch your neck. Now it's hidden between a couple beads. Ta-da! And one more thing is this nifty little crimp cover. See, it's like a bead that's been sort of cut in half. It goes over that crimp bead, which is not a very attractive thing. It's useful, but it's not real pretty. So put the crimp bead over the top of that and then squeeze it shut. And if you're really good at it, you massage it kind of like a snowball. Massage it, give it a little bit of gentle pushing and squeezing until it's practically seamless. It makes a nice attractive end. Ta-da! And I didn't really want these buntings to go all the way around the neck like I did on this one. This one has bunting all the way around. So I decided to put a little chain on the end of this. This is a lovely chain. This is a very, very popular chain. This kind of like a paper clip chain, they call it, because it's got long links. And it's so easy. I don't even have to use a jump ring. I can use the chain as a jump ring. Just open it up, put it on my necklace, and close it. Remember, just like jump rings, twist it open like an Oreo. You don't pull it open like a hamburger bun. Twisting like an Oreo. Oh, we got some more people who have questions, comments. We're coming toward the end. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I want to share. Aisha wants to know, can you dome the clay as a finishing touch? Doming in that making the edges not so sharp and raw looking? Absolutely. But that's a personal preference. Let's see, where's one of my ones that is already done but not baked? There we go. So yes, this one that's still flexible, we can certainly soften the edges to get them mushed around however you want. You can still manipulate this soft piece as much as you want. So now if that's what you meant by doming, or if you do mean adding like magic gloss or one of the acrylic resins to the top, absolutely, you can do that too. It's a real versatile product, highly recommended. Last thing is to put on a clasp, and we're near the end. So if you've got any comments, I really appreciate it. I especially like the questions. Oh, and by the way, people ask me about temperatures. Each one of the polymer clays is a little different. So read your manufacturer's ingredients on it, and never, ever, ever store your polymer clay in a hot car because it can bake the clay. And once it's baked, no amount of liquid polymer, no amount of conditioning is going to make it great. So there we have it. You can just use the other end of the chain as your clasping end. And if you're really ambitious, and since you've got a whole cane, why not? You can make earrings too. So there you have it. Patriotic polymer clay, just in time for 4th of July. But remember, it can also be used for gingerbread men or Easter baskets or anything you want to make. Great techniques. I hope you loved them. My name is Rose. Thanks for joining me, and happy beading.